Top action, priority 10, to encourage residential options, including high-end lofts, live-work units, and townhomes to increase density in Old Town. There are two major housing developments underway in Old Town that you're both aware of both of them. Uptown Village, 72-unit townhomes. 12 units have been finished. There's 30 under construction, and there's 30 that are in final plat, it's ready for submittal. So within 24 months, you should have all 72 of those townhomes built. This sits over on Keeley Street. South Village is not underway yet. Certainly the shopping center's been torn down and it's gone, and we get lots of questions about when that will be moving forward. There's been some issues with some of the property owners around the development, but at this point in time, we do believe that we'll probably be coming back to you with an expansion of the plan that you've already seen. That might include some retail, additional retail on the bottom, and residential space on top. So it's going to be an enhancement and improvement to what you've already seen. Top action priority number 4 is to identify restaurant infill project opportunities. We have transferred the land to Old Town Development over off of Charles and Church Street. Steve's already working with the developer on the underground utilities, so it is moving forward. We've signed 2 restaurants, a third is being worked on very diligently, and I think hook, line, and sinker is something being worked on, and we are very, very close to having that third restaurant. One thing that we talked about during the budget process is a fire sprinkler system in the core, the Old Town area. Sometimes when we've spoken to various businesses that would be interested in opening restaurants in Old Town, one of the problems they run into is the cost of the fire sprinkler system. You gave the money to us. We've not moved forward on that project, mainly because of the time that Park Plaza is taking. We didn't want to hit those business owners with additional construction. But now that we're nearing completion of the Park Plaza project, I think it is time to move forward with discussions of the fire sprinkler system, as well as an incentive program for the businesses in relation to the back of the buildings, the facade program. So we've had some early conversations, and we'll be bringing back a full plan probably within just the next couple of months. Top action priority number 8, to expand and enhance Old Town events to create a unique identity. James Country talked with you the other night about the expansion of the Old Town events. We worked with you and we developed the park use directives that was done a number of months ago. So when the Park Plaza is complete, we are ready to move forward with booking activities, and we have a management plan in place. He also talked to you about a 3-year expansion of the Western Days, which you guys seem to be agreeable to. So I think there's lots of great things that can come about with the addition of the Park Plaza in Old Town. Top action priority number 9, partner with existing nonprofit organizations such as Men and Men, KLB, and Cloud 9 Charities to create a number of quality events. Brewfest is scheduled for June 21st. It will be the second event, and it should be even better than it was before. And we're talking about various new events that James described earlier. Top action priority 6, to prioritize improvements to Keeley Street, including future consideration of Keeley as a Mill-Keeley couplet. When we talk about your blue ribbon package on Saturday, there are 2 Keeley projects included in that, so we'll talk about that one in more detail on Saturday. Other Old Town Street projects that are underway, certainly the main project is underway. We have received a preliminary design report for that project. So the actual design time could be an additional 12 to 24 months. And then we would be moving forward with construction. And just to summarize, when we talk about Old Town, the City Council's been focused on Old Town just about as long as I've been a city employee. And so, but when you step back now and you look at the successes in Old Town, it's pretty amazing. Public project investment, $49 million. Private investment, new construction, $143 million. Private project renovations, $1.8 million. The grant the city has provided directly, $475,000. We started when we established the tax increment financing district in Old Town. That base value was $69 million. That new value is $93 million. That's pretty significant. That those are changes that would not have occurred, I think, if the city had not played a major role in driving that change.
Donna, just to clarify, it's 93 million above that initial
Right.
67 million.
Above the base.
So right now we're over 167 million.
Big move number 4 is thriving neighborhoods. Your top action priority is to create neighborhood-specific reinvestment strategies by defining zones and levels of improvements. I'm going to let Cleve and Eric take this one.
Mayor and Council, in regards to the priority in creating neighborhood-specific reinvestment strategies, defining zones, is there's 2 parts to that. We have our mapping system that we presented to you a couple of years ago in regards to the Farmers Branch approach and identifying areas that needed improvement, or grading the areas that were in need of improvements. And then also we, because it's a large task with the number of neighborhoods that we have, we're breaking them down into larger zones, somewhere around 10 to 12 zones, so that we can manage those and put those in our strategy plan. It's similar to our current code enforcement zones, but it's geared more towards the residential, so they're a little different configuration. To complete Neighborhood Preservation Committee recommendations, one of the recommendations was a neighborhood services coordinator and a formal neighborhood enhancement program, and also developing some incentive programs and strategies on how to implement those. The formal network that we're trying to establish is what we're calling Neighbors Leading Neighbors program, which is going to talk about that a little bit later in the slides. And part of the recommendations that we followed through on was to hire a neighborhood services coordinator, Yolanda Wilson. We've all met her. She's exceeding our expectations and really has hit the ground running. And it says here that we have a NEST team. It's the Neighborhood Enhancement Strategy team. We're holding bi-monthly meetings, but because of the depth and the volume of the programs and the strategies that we've had, we've actually increased that to a weekly meeting. Next slide shows what that team's comprised of. Neighborhoods resource officers, or NROs. We have representation there. Fire prevention, building inspection, code enforcement, community development block grants, the assistant building official, neighborhood services coordinator, the sustainability manager, and we don't have anybody assigned specifically to the problem property units, but those are your foreclosures, abandoned properties, and substandard properties, but those are assigned right now to building inspection and code enforcement to follow through. So we've put together a 3-year plan. Year 1, develop a website specific to neighborhood services. We do now have a tab that citizens can locate. We're continuing to develop it and add portions to it, but we want it to be a one-stop shop where if a citizen has a question or answer or wants to find something, they'll be able to find it from this site if they can't find it from the city. And a lot of our website, or a lot of our tabs on our website, will take you and redirect you, and that's what we're hoping to do here. The subdivisions, geographic boundaries, we've identified all the subdivisions. There's a lot more than we thought, and we've done it according to whatever the plats of the subdivisions were. So it would be, phase 1, 2, and 3. The valley, as one example, is a very large area, but we've identified those, and those are also areas along with the zones where we're looking for neighbors who are leading neighbors to help us work in those areas. Citywide inventory of conditions, that's ongoing right now. What we focused on primarily in our discussion with the NEST team was the low to moderate income areas that Community Development Block Grant uses for their strategies. because we felt if we worked on those initially and got a handle on how we're going to implement our programs, that this would be a good start. And so we have those inventoried in regards to the structure, the overall appearance of the lot, the fencing, and those are pretty significant, and they help us identify areas where we want to concentrate or approach people in those areas. Again, the neighborhood leading neighbors, or Neighbors Leading Neighbors program, is going to kick off at the MCL Grand Theater on April 22nd at 6:30, and that's where we're going to start presenting the program, how it works, and we have a significant amount of people that are very interested in it. We're anticipating somewhere between 30 to 70 people that are going to attend that currently. They said that they're going to attend so they can gain information and make a decision on whether or not they want to be involved in the program. Host the home rehabilitation project. Boy, I haven't had any wine tonight. That's starting with, again, with the Community Development Block Grant program in their low to moderate income areas. We have 3 partners, if you will, that are committed to supplying materials, whether it's building materials, staining, fencing, and that's our 2 big box stores, Lowe's and Home Depot. And then also Builders First Choice has told us that anytime we have a rehab project that fits the criteria when we get ready to do it, that they will donate the materials. So that was a huge step moving forward. It's a neighborhood cleanup weekend. We're working with Keep Lewisville Beautiful and trying to kick that off and participate in that and get the Neighbors Leading Neighbors involved. And then our ongoing ordinance development, abandoned and vacant buildings, we're wanting to develop an ordinance in regards to that, green codes, which we've talked about, renewable energies, and then possibly some changes to the Community Development Block Grant Charter because of some of the expanded programs that we're doing. Year 2, again, it's more of a repeat of what we're doing. Implement the neighborhood voucher program is probably the goal that we have for year 2. And that program, we're looking at all the cities around us, and then also the cities nationwide and what they're doing in regards to voucher programs, reimbursement programs, incentive programs, and we're kind of covering all the bases and trying to determine what is the best fit for Lewisville, or maybe there's more than one. And then it goes into the cleanup and the development, and then year 3 is pretty much a repeat of that. It's just where we plan every year to revisit what we're doing. Year 3, we're going to begin to do the inventory of lots so that we have some comparison against what we had when we initially did it. And so that will be interesting to watch. We're hoping that we'll see significant improvements there. And that's pretty much it for year 2 and year 3. And then continuing on thriving neighborhoods in regards to priority number 2. I just messed my screen up here. Okay. Just to complete the Neighborhood Preservation Committee, again, their recommendations, and then include property owner incentive programs and the formal neighborhood enhancement programs. And part of that was the network that we're talking about establishing. And then a big chunk of that, along with code enforcement and improvements in aesthetics, is the public safety aspect. And so the police department, they, in 14-15, they started what they call the Premier Neighborhood Police Services. They assign police officers in overtime to do additional neighborhood patrols, athletic parks, and to address quality of life issues and improve visibility. And in the first 6 months, from October 1st to the end of January, they had patrolled 37 additional neighborhoods, or I'm thinking, Chief, that that's probably 37 more times of the neighborhood patrols. And then 225 calls for service and traveled over 900 miles, and then logged about 123.5 miles. And in addition to that was the school zones.
I think what the chief will tell you, and you saw from the video, Sherwood was the officer that was interviewed. The chief has done a great job in communicating what 2025 is all about in the police department. There's a lot of ownership there too. And this is one of the visible projects by being out there more, using overtime hours.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to be an active partner in 2025, and not just be considered the police, you know, the cops, that kind of thing. And we have a stake in this thing too. And when I challenged our guys to come up with ways that we can participate actively, this just jumped right to the forefront of another way we can get in there and deal with those quality of life issues that, you know, the guys answering call don't have a chance to really deal with. And neighborhood resource officers are often overwhelmed. So this gives us a chance to really dive deep into neighborhoods, be seen a lot. You know, the common complaint I get is that I don't see enough police in my neighborhood. Well, this is a way for us to kind of give back to that effort and let them see us, get used to us, get to know people a little bit better. And I think it's been a great thing. It's been a great boost for our department, I can tell you that.
The other relationship that's been so effective, I think, is the work we've done with the police department and code enforcement. Chief, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's really years ago when we started, we wanted to make sure every patrol officer had the same basic knowledge of some general code violations that occur out there that don't really impact them directly because they're not on the street. Historically, we've had a kind of a deal with code enforcement. You take care of everything from the curb into the house, we'll take care of the street, you know. And there was a little overlap because the cars are parked in a yard or something like that. We certainly would get involved in that too. But we wanted to go a little deeper there. We wanted to make sure that we were eyes and ears for code enforcement and make them aware of their code violations that maybe they're not seeing because they don't have enough people or as many people out there as we do. And so we started that process with training all of our patrol officers. We just did Jackie Davis just came out and redid everybody. I think he's finished up the last group this past week. You know, just to make sure we catch any new folks that come out. And we're referring tons of violations to code enforcement just to make sure that we're getting it. I know that code enforcement hears that complaint all the time, that you are never out there doing stuff on the weekend or all that stuff. We were hoping to fill that gap.
Clay, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think it's been a really wonderful partnership. You know, when code enforcement was just given to me about 2 years ago, and that relationship it goes both ways, and there's always discussion, there's always follow-up. Code enforcement will call out PD if we need them. PD will give us some complaints, or if they see something, they'll call us. And so it's really worked well. And the training that Jack has been doing, he's gone the second round. Last year he did all of the patrol groups, and now he's doing the new patrols. And he's pretty excited about how it's worked in the NRO.
So our guys see them so much as a partner that when they come across the house, where we know we've had trouble with the resident or one thing or another, we reached out to code enforcement to make sure that their database reflects that too. And we don't want them to walk into a storm and not be prepared for that. Say, hey, have us go with you.
So,
We're not.
Oh, you laughing at?
in regards to that relationship and also in regards to what we've been doing, I'm usually a little nervous when I put up a year-to-year comparison on statistics. I like to have at least 3 years to compare to. But I felt comfortable putting this up here, and that's that code enforcement inspections increased by 12% from the year 13-14 prior to 12-13. The violations decreased by 15%. Citations, actual tickets that we write, decreased by 53%. A significant factor is that citizen complaints decreased by 46%, and our compliance rate has been stable at 98%. It's actually 98.4, but I figured 98 was what it was the year prior, so it's pretty stable. Possible factors, the additional code enforcement officers, which allows us more sweeps. We have smaller areas to cover, and we're able to give them a lot more often. There's a correlation between the crime statistics, because the chief reported that crime's down significantly in Lewisville, and so that maybe supports the broken window theory if you buy into it. More detail on enforcement inspections with the new grading criteria. The code enforcement officers have kind of taken on a different approach when they look at a house and a structure and a lot than just maybe they've always been very aggressive and proactive, but this is them learning how to do that and seeing that more up close, one-on-one, one house at a time has really helped as well. And then the adoption of the property maintenance code. We feel that that's been a good tool in allowing us to cover more ground. And then the police department has been using Nextdoor. They've got a pretty good following up. It says 3,400, but I'm guessing it's probably over 4,000 by now. And if anybody's not familiar with that program, how it works is if you live in a certain area, it links you up with your subdivision or your neighborhood. And it's a social media, but what's nice about it is when the police department has announcements or they have some crime in their area, or there's a heads up that they want to give the neighbors, then that goes out. And we're using it, we're beginning to use it in the neighborhood services arena in regards to announcing up and coming things that are happening in your neighborhood, to announce the kickoff for the Neighbors Leading Neighbors program, and it seems to be a very useful tool.
On to big move number 5, new neighborhood choices. Nika's going to talk a little bit about some successes we've had with new neighborhood choices.
Sure. So one of the things was to start looking at the inventory we have in the city and realizing that we are fairly a developed city, and try to encourage creative residential options so we would increase our new residential base. As we all know that a lot of our housing was built in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, so we needed to inject new housing into the city. So what we've done, basically, or what you have done, is strategically rezoning some areas for new neighborhood choices. So we've been actually very successful in the past 5 years. We looked at our inventory, and there's been over 2,000 units of new single-family residential. I just want to make sure I emphasize that this is all single-family developments. This has happened with over 1,600 units of detached lots, 1,200 units of attached lots, that includes duplexes and townhomes, and 155 units of age-restricted, basically for independent living facilities. So this is huge for, again, due to our existing development patterns and the fact that we don't have very much vacant land. Of course, with the new annexation, that targeted the top action priority number 5, which is key locations for new residential development, and the subdivision that we, of course, we call it Josie Hebron. It's now called Lakewood Hills, and they have maximized that development for 526 units. This is our first planned unit development, basically. That's that has a lot of different variety of houses that are truly come together as a cohesive unit with a lot of amenities within the development. The housing is going to start at about $350,000 and up to $600,000. So this is definitely a new market for us on the east side, which is going to again create a huge new population for us. I want to go back on the, again, strategic rezoning, because you will see tomorrow we'll be showing some statistics that we are very over-retailed. So not only strategic rezoning would allow you to have new residential by taking some of that zoning inventory off the properties, it also allows for having revitalizing the existing base of the retail and commercial. Because then that pushes that new population to use those properties, basically. So it definitely helps in 2 ways. Now, we don't want to, of course, rezone everything from commercial to residential, but in places that are appropriate, that's definitely the right thing to do, and that's what's been happening. Castle Hills, Eric is going to have a fairly in-depth presentation, I think, tomorrow on the east side and the growth that we are seeing on the east side of Lewisville, including Castle Hills. The piece that we are focusing right now, or would like to talk to you about, is, if you remember initially, the Lakewood Hills was going to be a part of the larger development that Bright Development was working on, which was the Grand piece, which is now Lakewood Hills, and then there's a piece that's we call it affectionately the Clem piece, because they're the owners of the property. So the Bright property is still working on that project, so that's another 150 acres of property that can be annexed into the city, and adding to the inventory of single-family residential in the city. So that piece hopefully will be in the city of Lewisville and not in the district of Castle Hills. Castle Hills will also, as you know, will have a lot of mixed-use development as part of the district. One is the 1H that's being planned, and we see a lot of that being marketed in the paper now, because that's a unique housing that's going to target new people that are moving in, actually with the Toyota relocation, and having availability of housing for that new professional group that's coming in. So we believe that a lot of them will be actually living in Lewisville and in Castle Hills for that new professional group that's coming in, young professionals.
It's interesting how Castle Hills is marketing the properties also. There was an article in the newspaper 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it was describing a new development in Castle Hills, and it really kept talking about Lewisville. We are Lewisville. And so I think that's being done on purpose by the folks over in Castle Hills.
This is a map. It will come back actually in just a couple of slides down when we talk about I-35. This is our successing along the I-35 and what's been happening when removing some of the, or when TxDOT has been acquiring some of our prime restaurant sites, and what's been coming online with the new developments, which is very, very encouraging. And truly, we should not be worried about the right-of-way taking right now along I-35, because once the highway is done, all of that new market is going to come back in force. And even right now with the construction, we are seeing a lot of absorption of some of the existing properties, even some new properties, new restaurants that want to come in and actually construct right now while the highway is under construction, which is just a testament to the strength of I-35 and what a great corridor that is for us, and how much we really need to take advantage of that asset that we